our time is well spent, so I'll just go ahead, and we have 5 presenters from Madagascar. I think Madagascar is the only country I have not been to in the world, so I don't know much, and I can't speak in terms of Madagascar, but I know they said it cannot be Africa without Madagascar. I learned it from a junior school. So I'll just first hand over to our first presenter. His name is Tahiry Randrianjafimanana to just give us his presentation. And I'll kindly plead with all of you for them to do the presentation. Then after that, we can ask them the question and open the floor for any thoughts. Okay, now I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so
so that those online they can see you. No, you need. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be here today to present and to show you how coastal communities play a key role in the management of marine resources, and how community-based marine resources management approach is an approach to promote marine biodiversity conservation and also to enhance human well-being. In Madagascar, WWF work across 3 priority seascapes. In the north, that we call it the Yana seascape, and in the Middle West, in the Manambulti-Urbina seascape, and in the southwest, in the Mafali seascape. And in Madagascar, we support around 86 community based, and with around 7,500 members. And this community and 108,000 hectares under community management, LMMA, or locally managed marine areas. So why you support community coastal communities? Because in Madagascar we have some issues that about the management of marine resources, and to address these issues related to the lack of management and governance of the sector, of the depletion of the major stock, open access regime, and weak law enforcement, disorganization between small-scale fish and individual fisheries, and the weak of data. These issues, because of these issues, we promote community-based marine resources management. So this approach can ensure sustainable livelihood for local communities and the opportunity for effective conservation management of ecosystem and species. Let's see one by one the 3 priority seascapes for WWF and which management measures and tools are in place to effectively manage the area. In the north, we have 2 areas in the Ambaru Bay, the Ambilu Bay district, and in around the Nusar Marine Protected Area in the north. And we have around 60,000 hectares under the management of community-based. And currently we have 4 LMMA around Nusar that are under delimitation now. In this area, we community manage mangrove and the coral reef. And we have, in this area, we have fisheries management plan implemented by the ministry in charge of fisheries, but in collaboration with all stakeholders in this area. And with coastal community, we monitor and we collect data on fisheries. And we promote community patrol to support government on the monitoring, patrol, and surveillance of this area. And as a government management, we have a team or a bylaw, and the community has set up a temporary closure for fish and crab. And the CRG and Illinois is index of governance that we use. In the Middle East, you see of this map, in the first map, we see in the north of Murundava region, there are some sites that we implement our activity with community. And in the second map, we can see in the south of Murundav, the activity that we implement with the coastal communities. And also in this area, the management measures and tool, we have fisheries management plan in process to be implemented and to be enforced. And we monitor fish and collect data on catch rates and community patrol with coastal communities with the use of application mobile, smart application mobile, and temporary closure for fish and crabs. And the last one is in the south, in the Mahajamba seascape. The difference of the seascape between the two seascapes is that in this seascape, we do the participative marine ecological monitoring with coastal communities. And our coastal communities have received in training with a partnership with Marine Sciences and Fisheries Institute in the University of Stuttgart. We have a temporary closure for octopus of this place. So let me show an example for the result of the management of marine resources in the Mahajamba seascape. We can see of this trend that during the data collection system, we had data from since 2014 and 2020. And we can see that in area where no-tech zone is set up, we can see an increase of CPU, like Amuibul, Ambula, Pale, Tampulo, and over site. So we can say that setting up a no-tech zone is it can be a solution to effectively manage and to increase catch on this area. And about the catch composition, over the years gone, we can see that catch composition, we can have more bigger fish because you can see that in 2015, the majority of fish is around 10 and 20 and 25 centimeters. But over the year, here in 2020, we can see that we can have a fish around 40 and 50 centimeters of fish centimeter size. And for about the family, we can see that we can have more fish with a commercial fish for a commercial fish like Cicanidae, Letrinidae, and the other family of fish. And how about the habitat, about the ecosystem? This is an example for the ecosystem that where management measures are in place. And in Ambul, Isambay, and the Bail, this is the information about this site. And over the year, we can see that in 2020, a result of ATP showed that the coral station coverage rate of live coral is the highest compared to algal turf and mackerel algae. But the statistical analysis by ANOVA showed that there is no significant difference despite the improvement of coral health. And this can we can see in this picture that in 2014 we started medium, bad, and medium in 2020, and for another site we can have medium, good, medium, good, and as a conclusion we can say that in other site we have variable improvement health, variable health staff, and improvement health in the status of the coral reef. So, all we can say that when we work with coastal communities, when we need to improve their well-being, we need to set up an IGA, income generating activity, and for us, for WWF, we work with coastal community to set up some IGA like a sweet farming, beekeeping, community-based tourism, etc. And for an effective management of marine resources, so we need to consider the ecosystem approach to fisheries, and for coastal communities, we can say that coastal communities are major actors to have an excellent management of our resources, and because they possess knowledge of traditional and development knowledge that can complement scientific information and thus promote appropriate decision making. And to assess the real impact on CBNRM on habitat and fish stock, we need to do a deep statistical analysis of catch data and marine ecological monitoring data. And finally, coastal communities in Madagascar are involved in the management of protection of the coastal ecosystem. And now many government and many NGOs are actively encouraging them to take more management responsible. So thank you for this. This is my last slide. The last slide. One is with my last slide. Thank you.
I thank Lila so much for giving us very insightful with MPA and closure in Madagascar. We will talk more about his presentation when we open the floor. Our next speaker is also coming from Madagascar, and then he's going to share with us. So our next presenter is going to take over from me, and then.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, everyone again. And my name is Tahiry. I am the National Technical Advisor for Fisheries Management and Marine Protected Area Blue Venture Conservation in Madagascar. So Blue Venture is a marine conservation organization dedicated to rebuilding tropical fisheries with local communities. And we were founded on the idea of putting communities in the heart of the conservation. So today, I am going to tell you how we can develop innovative conservation model that will increase community engagement in small-scale fisheries management in Madagascar. So I would like to start this presentation with the definition of what is conservation model. It is an innovative conservation approach that engages the communities and provides solutions to the challenge community face while managing marine resources. We then implement this approach and replicate them with the aim of improving the life of coastal communities while protecting the marine environment. So please remember that management and conservation work together, but conservation does not work alone. So, however, We face multiple challenges while working to ensure the voice of the community members are heard. Additionally, this challenge limits the engagement of community members in fisheries management. And in Madagascar, which is the world's fourth largest island, poverty level is quite high. Over half of the population depends on marine resources for subsistence and income, which in turn translates to high pressure in the limited natural resources. Over 90% of the community lives on less than $2 per day. And over 2/3 of the population is affected by chronic food insecurity, and with its issue of hunger, malnutrition, and famine. So, fishermen are faced with the complex problem that require non-linear and multiple approach solution. There is a need to understand the challenge that fisher community face while trying to manage fisheries sustainably. So we need to know in this presentation the driver why nearshore fisheries and marine ecosystem collapse. So we identified 5 drivers that we need to address when we get with the solution of the overfishing in Madagascar. The first one is the stock are overexploited, what they can sustain, lack of effective management to control overfishing, critical habitats like mangrove, coral reef, and also some seagrass bed degraded, and the local governance institutions are few and often ineffective. So now also the fishing income is also unsuitable with fluctuating markets. So sometimes also the community have the problem with the market issue. Also, this is also the value chain and the markets, and also they have the big problem also when they have some the prices down, and also the problem of the value chain and the supply chain. Also, what's the big barrier of the community to engage also in the management is that fisher basic rights and needs are unmet. For example, some education, also some healthcare. And so to address also this problem, we developed the model, is a solution and approaches. But the first thing that we listen to the communities, and by listening to the communities, we start with developing what community needs as a priority. And with, as the problem is complex, and with this learning cycle, we have also come up with adaptive processes and also adaptive management. So now we have open access fisheries, and to address that, the Madagascar have developed a number of approaches for the management of natural resources, ranging from the centralized management to management transfer. So we work with the communities and the government to support the community to get the management transfer, and also co-management, and also to recognize the local law. And the second one is to respond also the overexploited stock and vulnerable habitats. We support the community-led fisheries diagnostic and monitoring to design management measures. And the first BV model was periodic closures in the southwest of Madagascar that drove the creation of the first locally managed marine area in Madagascar. So since then, we developed also some different solutions, some model, like also the blue carbon model. And also to reduce the loss of the fish catch, we support the fisher to improve the quality of the product and also reduce post-harvest loss through improved harvest and also post-harvest processes such as smoking fish, crab fishing best practice, and improved handling of octopus. So overall, we are supporting fisher to engage within the fisheries improvement projects that encompass these techniques. Okay, so to drive support of this process, we work with the government and the partner to deliver essential service to fisher communities, such as basic health care, family planning, and education, clean and drink water. And we also support communities to earn income from other sources like aquacultures and also the seaweeds with the communities. So partnership has involved to address this barrier as the fundamental to rise up the poverty, rebuild fisheries, and build also the resilience to climate plankton. So as a key message as a takeaway message, as the problem is complex that require multiple solutions, putting community at the center of solving problem, the multiple models should offer holistic response and or inclusive platform for engagement. Model must be supported by robust data led by communities and secure small-scale fisher rights and support community-based fisheries management. And the last point is the best way to protect nature is to protect the human rights of those who live among its depend upon it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm enjoying the presentations. We just learned from the first presenter on marine protection area, and then this presentation also looks about the basic human rights in fisheries. So our next presenter is also coming from. Share the slides. Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll hand over to our next presenter. Yeah. Okay.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emilien Razafindrakoto. I am a fisheries technician from Berthieu Conserve Organization. And now I'm going to presenting developing integrated fisheries management and governance through the local involvement of communities in Madagascar, the case of Mahajamba LMMA, locally managed marine area. So, as you know, Madagascar is the fourth largest island on the earth, with more than 5,500 kilometers of coastline. Its climate and marine currents and physical factoring as the island site as a biodiversity hotspot full of endemic species. The west coastal is dominated by coral reef and mangrove, seagrass, and mangue. So, however, this exceptionally biodiversity are under the multiple threats, and for Mahajamba Bay, the marine resources are under the threats such as illegal fishing, unsustainable fishing practice, and most of the population depends on the fisheries. Mahajamba Bay is localized in the northwest of Madagascar, approximately 14,000 hectares of mangrove. The 14% of the population who are the fisher. Mahajamba Bay is the main source of marine products. As I said before, there is a big problem, and what should we do to resolve it? We need a strong governance at the local level. The communities is the key actors of the governance. In Mahajamba Bay, the management transfer is the legal framework for the communities leads management of resources. And this approach encourages the engagement of the community to manage the resource, and they are supported by training, capacity building for conducting and leading the discussion and the consultation and development of a local model for managing the resource. So at the national and regional level, there is a platform that brings up the future voice. The LMMA network represents the voice of coastal communities in Madagascar. So to summarize, the participatory governance engaged the community, increase their integration in management process. It improves the good governance of marine and coastal resources in Mahajamba Bay. And then governance is in place, but it's enough to manage sustainably the resource. In fact, we need a data, and the data is very important because it is a part of the main tools that the community should have to inform the stakeholders and help them in the decision making. So in Mahajamba Bay, the communities are trained and supported to carry out the participatory monitoring, like catch monitoring and habitat monitoring. We support the communities to lead the data collection, analysis, and feedback to management. Finally, the local management measure as adopted and approved by consultation with the all stakeholders. So in Mahajamba Bay, the authorities trained the community members of monitoring control system about how to conduct the community patrol. So the patrol members carry out the awareness and the oversight of the village around the day. So in conclusion, for the effective sustainable management of coastal and marine resources, we need the clear legal framework promoting the community lead management and governance. Implementation of a management system approach and process. Definitely amplify and connected the work of a small-scale fisher in managing fisheries through the networks. And thank you for the listening.
Thank you so much. It's true, we need a clear policy, legal framework in terms of all the things that we do. We'll just have our next presentation, and then we'll go online for the last presentation. And the last presentation is coming from Mohammed. I said Mohammed. Sorry, Nomenjanahary. Okay, please have a seat.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Berthieu, and I am a fisheries technician at Berthieu, and we are free at Berthieu for this presentation. And for my part, we go to talk about community-based fisheries management model for conservation in Madagascar, and we'll talk about the case of Barren LS in Madagascar, largest marine protected area. Yes, so Barren LS is a marine, is a locally managed marine project, and located at the Midwest of Madagascar. So each marine and ecosystem is a coastal and marine ecosystem is made up of great diversity of habitat. So far phosphor of reef and different form of shallower coral reef and extensive of mangrove forest and the seagrass around baseline. And these rich and diverse habitat can support productive pelagic and the livelihood of fishery community. Sure, Barren LS have reached in ecosystem, but fast in front anyway, a structure local of management committee put in place to ensure the sustainability of resource. And the dinner, and the DINA is a convention social ensure the respect of rule through monitoring, control, and surveillance. As we said before, Barren LS face fruit menace, and today we're going to talk about just free feet on this Barren. So the first is the trawlers. The shrimp trawlers are known to work the channel between Isla and the mainland, and they fish from the sunset, some area at the sometimes with traditional fishing, and which lead the conflict. Secondly, fortunately, the fisheries and biodiversity of the Barren LS are fitted by opening access fisheries. The fishers find themselves in the situation where their fisheries are overexploited by external small-scale fisheries. Endangered species such as Thoth archilid and keystone species such as Tsitohotsy and shark are fast in the risk of disappearing of the ecosystem. And finally, the Barren LS extensive coral reef system are an important ground of the migratory Sara, and they travel the length of the coast of Madagascar to exploit the shark and the Tsitohotsy fisheries. So all these problem require immediate urgent intervention. So communities sought to reduce and stop decline in order to gain more gain. So a plan acts, and this leads to the participatory of a fisheries management plan. This plan serves as guide of management of fisheries, and due to each validation and support by the Ministry of Fisheries, this plan is a success, and we will update very soon. A participatory assessment conducted by community members to identify, to test, to adapt, and to scale management measures. And Fisher was trained and engaged to disseminate data that lead to management measures. And permanent and temporary closure were identified and implemented. Village community closed off a small part of the octopus fishing ground for a few months to allow stock to recover. When the fishery reopened, Fisher caught more fish and earned more money. And this success has encouraged Fisher to take more ambitious steps and to safeguard their fisheries while increasing to protect of the key habitat and the species. So this figure summarizes your approach of Blue Venture. So awareness raising of local community, go to a participatory assessment, training of community members, and the feedback and results of discussion with local community and stakeholders using innovative visual tools. And thus lead to management strategy adaptation, and finally, management plan and enforcement adaptation. So this simple model in a fishing community more fraud increases catch and better livelihood and reshape economic relations between people and conservation. And management action can only be enacted throughout the development of knowledge and legitimacy of local government institutions to enact management decisions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for just sharing with us your findings and presentation. Okay. Based on our 4 presentations that we have so far, we learned from the fishery management aspect with the MPA and temporary process. We also discussed the fisheries-based rights management and integrated approach with a clear legal framework. And our last one that we had was talking about a better livelihood and conservation. We have our last presenter who is online. So I'll give her a co-author for her to just go ahead and share her presentation.
All right, thanks a lot for coming to my talk. So I'm Stéphanie D'Agata. I'm a former postdoctoral fellow at the French National Research Institute for Sustainable Development, so in short, IRD. And I'll present some results from a collaborative study focusing on the socio-ecological vulnerability of small-scale fishers in southwest Madagascar, in collaboration with scientists from AHSM and the University of Antananarivo in Madagascar, IRD, CNRS, and IFREMER in France. So as an introduction, so global environmental changes induce modification of marine and coastal ecosystems, and notably changes in temperature and primary productivity alter food webs and species composition, and ultimately alter fishing catch. So the decrease in potential catches due to increased temperature and decreased productivity will be potentially larger in the tropics, particularly in the Atlantic and the Pacific, with a decrease of about 48% and about 29%.
Please, the screen has not changed. So if you can see, yeah.
Does it change here?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
then I don't know. Hello?
The screen that's still on the first page.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know because I'm changing it. I don't know what's
Okay, why don't you try on another screen? Okay, don't put it on presentation mode and see if it can work.
okay.
Okay, now it's good. Yeah.
I've stopped. So
Yeah.
okay, that's can you see it now?
Yes, I think we can do it with this one now. Okay, now it's good.
All right. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so the expected change in fish catch will decrease by about 29% in the Indian Oceans. But who will be impacted first? So this is a study from Blasiak and collaborator who put together vulnerability of countries to the impact of climate change, for example, on fish catch. And it shows that the least developed countries will be the most affected by climate change compared to OECD, and particularly Africa and Asia. And so basically, the countries the most impacted by climate change will be the first impacted, sorry. So for this study, we used the vulnerability framework. So vulnerability in a nutshell, even though I know most of us know what it is, it's the degree to which a system is susceptible to or unable to cope with adverse effects of stress. And it's a composite index with exposition, so the nature and degree to which a system is exposed to significant change, some with sensibility, so the degree to which a system is affected by a stress, minus adaptive capacity, the latent capacity of the system to take advantage, opportunities, or to respond to consequences. Here we use the socio-ecological vulnerability framework, which actually adds the ecological vulnerability to the global vulnerability framework, and to assess the interlinkage between socio-economic and ecological systems. The objective being to identify the most vulnerable and to identify leverage to reinforce the capacity of the system to react. So for the geographical context of the study, so we focused our study in the southwest of Madagascar in the Toliara Bay, which is the most inhabited areas in the southwest Madagascar, with about more than 200,000 inhabitants. It's an area with characterized by overexploitation and high habitat degradation due to human impact for the last 30 or 40 years, and a decrease of about 30% of fish catch in the last 30 years. And we focused mainly on 8 villages on the Bay of Toliara. So that's the description of the data set I'm using. So in 8 villages, about 600 fishermen were sampled by GPS tracking of fishing trips. And on top of that, about 166 fishing households were surveyed in 4 villages. And I want to acknowledge the scientists and students behind in Madagascar and France behind this database that make this work possible, because that's quite a unique database. So we had information on fishing trips via GPS traffic for a year, and on fishing sites, size of crew, fishing gears, fishing catch, catch composition, as well as demographic characteristic of fishing household surveys, etc. And so we first assess the ecological vulnerability of the area using key indicators for ecological exposition, for example, the annual total fishing pressure, estimated based on GPS tracking, the ecological sensitivity using catch per unit efforts, for example, the weighted proportion of juvenile caught, and the ecological adaptive capacity using families presence absence, such as functional diversity, so the diversity of reproductive phenology, seed bank dispersal, colonization and dispersal ability, diets, and other traits, and the functional redundancy, which is the existence of more than one species or process delivering the same ecological function. And so what we did, we specialized the ecological vulnerability score using TOPSIS scoring between 0 and 1. And then we extracted the average weighted score for each fisherman based on their spatial activity. On the socioeconomic aspects, to estimate sensitivity and adaptive capacity, we use different indicators for sensitivity. So related to a sensitivity to a decrease in coastal resources. So that would be, for example, the percentage of income from fishing for the sensitivity, the dependency ratio of the household, fishing attachment. And for adaptive capacity, there was the number of fishing activity, the number of non-fishing activities, fishing strategies, social network, such as association membership association, etc. Again, we use TOPSIS scoring between 0 and 1 to estimate those indicators. And so that's the specialized ecological vulnerability for the bay using GPS tracking and other indicators. And so what we see here, it's quite variable across the landscape. Seagrass is more on the coast and the coral reef is on the west offshore, and in between you have the coastal lagoons. And what we see that seagrass and coral reef are the most exposed. Seagrass mainly, and coral reef mainly because of the high exposure, high fishing pressure on those habitats. And seagrass is the most vulnerable because the high level of juvenile caught in this habitat. And as a first analysis, we look at the variability of ecological vulnerability experienced by fishermen. So once we extracted data for each fisherman by village on the left and by fishing gears on the right. And what we see is that there's both like a quite variable level of ecological exposure, vulnerability experienced by fishermen at the village and fishing gears level. We also look at, so for the socioeconomic sensitivity, one key thing is like each component of social sensitivity increase with the sensitivity scores. But we found no real difference across village or fishing gears, meaning that it's not where you're located in the bay or the fishing gear you're using that really influence your socioeconomic sensitivity to decrease of resources. Socioeconomic adaptive capacity for fishermen. One key thing here is that the non-fishing activity here in the middle was a key determinant of adaptive capacity scores, as well as whether you're a member of an association or even a leader. Interesting thing is that the fishing activities, the number of fishing activities wasn't really influential on adaptive capacity. And when we look at the village or a fishing gear level, again, like we didn't see significant difference at the village level, a little bit more at the fishing gear level though. And one thing I wanted to highlight as well is that for the ecological vulnerability, one key thing is the high ecological vulnerability of mosquito nets fishermen who are constrained on seagrass and have really low geographical capacity. Yeah, so altogether, so now we look at the social ecological vulnerability, so the composite score of ecological vulnerability, social adaptive capacity, and social sensitivity. And we see that on the left that we don't see much changes at the village level. So here it's for 4 villages because, as I recall, the household were only at 4 villages. So the fishing activity, the whole fishing activity was at 8 villages, but socioeconomic household surveys at 4 village level. So that's why it's less. So we don't see much difference at the village level, but a little bit more at the fishing gear level, with like line fishing having more socio-ecological vulnerability than spear gun fishers. And in between, you find like beach sand, nets, and beach, yeah, and mosquito nets, sorry. We also look at the link between socio-ecological vulnerability and a multidimensional deprivation index, which is an indicator of poverty, because we wanted to see if there were like a growth relationship between the two. And we didn't find any clear linear relationship between the two, meaning that it's not because you're socio-ecological vulnerable that you're poor, and it's not because you're poor that you're more or less you have more or less vulnerability. So that was interesting result and food for thoughts for sure for the rest of the study. So as a conclusion, so we found high spatial heterogeneity of ecological vulnerability across the landscape, limited variability of social sensitivity and socio-ecological vulnerability by village, that clearly non-fishing activity and social network were key positive determinants of adaptive capacity compared to additional fishing activity, for example, and that fishing gear was a key determinant of socio-ecological vulnerability. And finally, we found no clear pattern between socio-ecological vulnerability and multidimensional poverty index. So this is preliminary results, so it's to be continued and discussed, but yeah, thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And
yeah, should I stop sharing? Yeah.
Good. Maintenant, Vinny says presentation. Jesu mon ami pays Mozambique demandé la 5 minutes comparé à ce patronage avec today. I would like to kindly give 5 minutes to a friend of mine who he's from Mozambique, and he did almost the same work for his master's, whether he can share the same story that he had with us. If you can share your findings with your master's with us, because it's almost in line with what they have discussed. Then I have put you in spot, but please. Okay. Thank you so much. That's my problem. And yet it's online.
Oh, thank you. I can speak. I can stand up. No worries. Actually, Isaac was my colleague. We did masters together in South Korea, so that's why he put me on the spot. But yeah, maybe to correct a little bit, my thesis was not related to vulnerability, but what I did is an ecosystem approach. Like I did an assessment of shallow water shrimp in Mozambique using an ecosystem approach methodology that was developed by one of the professors in South Korea. And luckily the professor was my supervisor. So the main objective of my thesis was to do an assessment using the fisheries in Mozambique, shallow water shrimp, which is targeted by three main sectors: artisanal, semi-industrial, and industrial fleet. So I think that was the first time that this kind of assessment was conducted using this kind of approach, because what's happening in Mozambique is that we are able to get more information, data from the industrial fleet, industrial or semi-industrial. And as you know, for the developing coastal states, it's always difficult to get information from artisanal. So most of the assessment that we conducted before, they did not consider the information on artisanal or semi-industrial fleet. So they were just bringing like recommendation based on the information comes from the industrial fish. So what I found out in my study is that there is always a need, and FAO is always advocating this issue, that we need to take into consideration all the aspects related to environment, sustainability, and also the impact of human being on the fisheries, not only rely on data that comes from a specific segment of the fishery. So it was very good. It was very good, and my result, they look like almost similar than the results that my colleagues from research have been producing. But they were looking on the overall way. They are not targeting like species by species. So I was able, implementing this ecosystem-based approach, I was able to get like a status, health status of each shrimp from shallow water. And I end up knowing that 3 of the species were almost overexploited. Only 2 species were in green. That so I had to develop some management measures in order to revert that situation. So I was not focusing more on the vulnerability. That was a specific word, but it was not deeper. And yeah, that I've conducted. I think.
Thank you so much. Like his findings that he presented, that I saw almost the same thing. That so I didn't know that it's the different vulnerability with different ecosystem aspects, but we have really enjoyed that. So now we have the discussions. If anyone has a question for the first presenter, he talks about the temporal closure. So, and then the next speaker also looked about the phase-based rights aspect, and it follows by the better livelihood and democratic and vulnerability. So if anyone has something to ask them. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Stephanie. Hello.
Yeah. Yes.
They have a question for you. They want to bombard you with questions because only you that it's away. All of them are from the same town. So they don't want to ask them a question.
Yeah, I feel that I am interested in terms of
now you can see your face.
Yeah.
vulnerability assessments, because Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your results in terms of vulnerability assessments. And my question is, what is the key, maybe key measure recommendation for you to incorporate in the management plan that we put it in place in the Southwest? Because sometimes we have a result like that, and we need also to incorporate in this management plan, for example, to be effective, to be workable, and also to be implemented with all stakeholders around this management. Thank you.
Well, I think I don't know if I have like a key solution, but one thing that vulnerability assessment provides is how you can. It kind of highlights on which components you can play, and here we showed that, for example, the exposure component, you can play on it. It's basically the fishing pressure. Well, obviously, you can play on it to decrease the socio-ecological vulnerability of all the fishermen. So it would require, obviously, like implementing management plans and being inclusive in how you do that. And it also highlighted how you can play, have impacts on adaptive capacity. Sensitivity was not really, was quite homogeneous across the seascape, but you can definitely, there is some variability in adaptive capacity. So that's also another aspect where you can increase adaptive capacity, especially of the most vulnerable and marginalized. But it needs like, I don't want to give like solution. I think it needs to be placed into the context, and at least it provides some food for thoughts on how to use that for management.
Yes, thank you.
Stephanie, I would like to kindly inform you that your presentation was listened by the minister from Madagascar.
All right. Thanks.
So you are really honored for him to see what you are doing. So probably, I don't know what will come up next. So,
Thanks for your interest.
Thank you. Is there any more question for Stephanie?
I cannot hear.
The minister is congratulating you for the wonderful job done in his country. So we all thank you for all the effort. And do you have a question for any of the presenters?
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't follow all the presentations. So that's a beautiful job they're doing. I've seen some of like it was the slide where didn't go, so I could see from far. But I know that BV is doing an amazing job in the Barren, etc. So, but I don't have like an explicit question. Sorry, because.
Thank you so much for joining us all the way from France.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you for interest.
Like, is there anyone have a last thought that we can all share? And saying, if you want to speak French, please do that, because I think almost all of us are French. I'm the only one that didn't speak French well, because I just learned it for a few months. But when you speak, I understand. But I have to thank you that you guys have really done well to do a presentation in English that is not your language. It's really, really hard. Even those of us who speak English, it's hard for us. So I give you applause and keep on, because when you speak different language like French and English, it takes you far. But most of the countries in West Africa, like my country, Ghana, we don't speak French. So I have to go to Montreal. I noticed that I can't get a better job if I speak only English, to go and learn French. And that has helped me. So you guys are my experimenter, my first French speaking from coming back from Montreal. So merci. And thank you so much.